Conformity. Behavior in accordance with socially accepted conventions or standards. In the short stories Bartleby by Herman Melville, Paul's Case by Willa Cather, Bernice Bobs Her Hair by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, the main characters are all affected by society's expectation to conform. All characters, in some way, are faced with the choice to fit the mold or break free. In the short story Bartleby, an office building of law copyists are working on Wall Street when a new hiree named Bartleby comes along and disrupts the balance of the entire workplace. Following the narrator, who is a rather elderly man, we slowly see the true Bartleby unfold before his eyes. At first, Bartleby is seemingly hardworking and submissive, but one day, when the narrator requests that Bartleby examine a document with him, Bartleby shocks everyone by simply stating, "I would prefer not to." This becomes a recurring phrase throughout the story as Bartleby progressively refuses to complete even simple tasks, such as eating. It is never explained why Bartleby will not obey these commands. He would just prefer not to. This refusal to conform eventually leads to Bartleby's death. In this story, the setting of Wall Street epitomizes the idea of the modern American workplace and the expectations that are set for its workers. By not conforming to the expectations set by the workplace and beyond, Bartleby leaves his fate in the hands of force and lets society decide where an outcast like him belongs. Paul's Case by Willa Cather is the story of an eccentric and depressed teenager living a comfortable but misplaced life in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Unsatisfied with his mundane everyday routines, Paul craves a lavish life in the big city. He is suspended from his high school, though his teachers can't exactly pinpoint why. Paul escapes through watching plays and going to operas at Carnegie Hall. His sadness and dissatisfaction with his life melts away, and he is completely taken with the art. However, Paul's strict father doesn't respect Paul's love of the arts, and wants him to complete high school like everyone else. Paul's internal conflict between conformity and individuality drives him to escape from his humdrum lifestyle and seek the grandeur of New York City. Deluded by the overwhelming splendor, Paul believes he has actually found happiness, while in reality his depression still lingers, and in the end leads him to commit suicide. When Paul sees the other side and experiences the life he'd always dreamed of, he realizes a change of setting isn't really what he needed, and that there is really no place for him in society. When he is let down by his dream, he doesn't feel he has any more reason to live, and throws himself in front of a train. In Fitzgerald's Bernice Bobs Her Hair, a dull girl named Bernice is visiting her cousin Marjorie for the summer. When Bernice overhears Marjorie complaining about how hopeless she is to her mother, this sparks a motivation in Bernice to learn the rules of popularity. With the help of Marjorie, Bernice learns to groom herself, dress, and make conversation properly, according to Marjorie. But the popularity is short-lived when she is forced to get a disastrous bob haircut. Though the haircut is not attractive to her peers, by cutting her hair, Bernice is set free. She is no longer held back by anyone's expectations but her own. With this new mindset, she cuts off Marjorie's long braids while she sleeps with one cathartic snip, thus liberating Marjorie as well. Even though in the beginning Bernice allows herself to be changed in order to be popular, in the end choosing not to conform makes her a happier and more carefree person as she escapes the pressures of Marjorie's town. The Yellow Wallpaper demonstrates the defiance of a woman suffering from postpartum depression who is utterly controlled by her husband in the late 19th century. This story displays the expectation of this time for women to be subservient to men. Her husband, who also serves as her doctor, detains her from participating in day-to-day activities as part of her treatment. She is confined to a room bequeathing a hideous yellow wallpaper behind which she thinks a woman lives. As an act of rebellion, the narrator begins a journal that accounts the daily progression of her illness. As the wallpaper begins to dominate her thoughts, the narrator begins to resent her husband and break free from the confinement he subjects her to. The woman the narrator sees behind the wallpaper is representative of herself, and in the end, when the narrator tears down the wallpaper, she is breaking free from the chains to which conformity has bound her. By choosing a path of nonconformity, she is choosing liberation. In summation, the theme of conformity is at the forefront of every story and impacts each character in a major way. Though they face different things, like depression, other mental illness, or peer pressure, These characters all challenge the situations they are in by going against the grain of what's expected or demanded of them. In the words of John F. Kennedy, conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. So will you choose to conform?